Okay, yes, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Rugby Muscle podcast. I've been missing for a little bit and I've got my downer up about a few things. So rather than go into one specific topic, I thought what I would do for you guys is give you 10 ways that I commonly see rugby players messing up their strength and conditioning. If you're a rugby player, there's a good chance that you're making one of these mistakes when you're pursuing improving at the sport, doing your strength and conditioning. I'm doing this because I think that this is going to give you guys more value if you're watching or listening to this podcast than real getting into the nitty gritty specifics of things. And again, we like to obsess over this stuff, and that's something that I'm going to get into. But I think the overall mindset and approach is something that a lot of rugby players need to hear. And let me know in the comments below or hit the three dots on Spotify which of these mistakes applies to you and resonated with you the most, and something that is going to help you with your training. I'd love to hear your feedback. And of course, if you're already there, down in the comments, give this episode a subscription, a 5-star review, a thumbs up, however you're listening or watching. Whichever ways that you can contribute will always help out the show. And of course, if you do want to work with me or have the programming done for you by Rugby Muscle, everything that you can do with Rugby Muscle will be in the description below. But without further ado, let's get into it. I've got 10 different ways I see rugby players consistently messing up their S&C training. Number one, this one always makes me laugh. It's that they think they play too low a level to care. Like they say some things like, I don't really need to worry about strength and conditioning, I just play club rugby. Okay, but you already go to the gym, right? You already know that you need to lift weights. You already know that fitness is a good thing for you. So why not direct that effort towards actually helping your rugby? Most players at the amateur level still train like gym bros or random influencer fitness stuff. And I think because they're not professional players or playing even a high level, that they can't train specifically for rugby. But that's just not true at all. You can build strength, you can look better, you can perform better all at the same time with a few smart tweaks. And I get people saying all the time, I just train to get stronger because I enjoy it, and I play rugby because I enjoy it. So I don't really need to make those two goals really meet. But I think that is the point, right? And replacing one strength session with a conditioning session is probably not going to hurt your strength much at all. It might even allow you to recover better. And it will 100% benefit your on-field performance, make the game even more enjoyable, and that's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. So I don't really think that strength and conditioning has to be for people that want to play a high level. In fact, 98% of the people that I work with are completely amateur, maybe even more. A good percentage of those people that I do work with are even over 35. Good training is just good training, no matter what your level is, what your age is, and what your commitment is. This brings me conveniently to point number two. It's that they think that they need to commit hours and hours and hours to the gym. Absolutely classic, right? Players think that in order to progress, they need to do marathon gym sessions, spending 90 minutes in the gym, doing all of their accessories, their mobility, their abs, and then they're done, and then life happens. Work, family, whatever gets in the way, and somehow these perfect sessions don't fit their schedule. So then they skip them, and then they leave them, and then they don't do anything, right? Then consistency is absolutely gone. Most players don't need more gym time. They don't need to find more time for the gym. They already have it. They just need to get that in and get it consistently done. Some of the athletes that I even coach train just 2 sessions a week, and they do that for long stretches of time, and they still progress. Yes, of course, if we can get 3 or 4 in, we will take that and we will try to get slightly faster results. But there is nothing out there saying that you cannot consistently progress on a minimalist schedule. The problem is that most programming advice and training advice is going to come from people who love the gym already. Bodybuilders, athletes, influencers, all of which are not interested in how little they can train and progress because they see it as part of their identity. But that's the reality of rugby players. You've got so many different areas that you're looking to improve. You really want to look at what is the minimal effort that you can put in and still see progress. Not minimal effort that you can put in full stop, but the minimal effort that you need to make and actually continue to get better, because you'd be shocked at how far focused effort can take you even on a minimal schedule. There's research on trained powerlifters where they're just doing 2 to 3 hard sets a week on their main lifts, And not only did they not regress, they made meaningful progress, meaning that they were happy with their progress on training just 2 to 3 sets of squats, benches. I think they only trained 1 set a week of deadlifts, and they were still able to see progress. So if you can stay consistent and train with intent, less can genuinely be more. You can make amazing progress with very little training. Point number 3, which catches everybody out, is that they think that they need to be perfectly recovered every time they go into train. I've seen this time and time again, right? You start a new program, you're all fired up, you get a few sessions in, and then you get sore. Your legs ache, your joints get stiff, or you're carrying knocks from the weekend if you're in rugby season. And you think, okay, I'll just skip today because I'm sore, I shouldn't go into the gym today. But that soreness either is just your body adapting, or it's unrelated and it's not really going to stop you from being able to get in some quality training anyway. It's normal, right? You don't need to feel perfect before you train again. You can usually work through a little bit of tightness, a little bit of DOMS, general rugby wear and tear, and still make progress. Maybe you don't quite perform your 100% intensity or your 100% best lifts that you can, but that does not mean that you're not going to send a stimulus to the body to make adaptations and get better. So if you can still go and you can still train and you can still adapt and get better, that soreness is not stopping you from improving. It's the not attending the training session in the first place that is going to stop you from improving. Especially early on, the goal isn't about perfect recovery, it's about building momentum. And when you keep showing up, your body is going to adapt and it's going to eventually stop getting sore over time. You're going to recover faster, soreness is going to fade quicker, or maybe ideally not really interfere with your training whatsoever. And then you've got momentum, you've got those habits, and you're able to get consistent results. Now, obviously, recovery is a part of this process, and that's why I created the course, the Recovery Code, and that takes into account everything that you need to consider for your recovery as a rugby player. I'll put the links to sign up for that in the description below. It will help you handle your recovery whilst living your life and still trying to achieve all the things that you want to achieve as a rugby player. And don't get me confused here. I'm not saying that you need to push through pain and serious injury, but I am saying that if you're a little bit sore, there's a very good chance that you can still train through it, still get quality stimulus, and still make progress. And at worst, if there is an injury that you need to train around, you can still get in and find ways to train around it. Like, I just don't think that as a rugby player, there's going to be very many times throughout the year that you're going to be able to enter the gym completely pain-free or completely feeling fresh. So don't get into the mindset of only waiting for that time. Next up, we have that rugby players think that they need to be really lean if they're focusing on their strength and conditioning. This one happens a lot, right? You finally get back into good training, you're lifting well, you're building good momentum, and then you think, right, I should be getting shredded. Or even before you start, right? You say, right, now I'm all in on my fitness. I'm going to smash the gym. I'm going to do my conditioning. I'm going to take care of my recovery, and I'm going to really diet down to cut out all of the crap and focus on building a lean physique. But this is where things can go wrong, because when you start training properly, you've already added in a new stress, a new thing that you've got to take care of every single week. Now, to just do that consistently is going to take a good bit of mental focus, which you have potentially quite little of around the rest of your life. So it adds another layer on of obligations when you have to then take care of your nutrition, when you have to start logging your diet, start paying real attention to your macros, and start paying attention to the scale and really making sure that you're losing weight and you're doing everything perfectly. This is sort of an all or nothing mindset that a lot of these ways that rugby players are messing up go in line with. If you throw a calorie deficit on top of everything that you're already doing, at minimum, you're sort of adding in an extra stress that might not be necessary and you might not be prepared to handle. And at worst, you might be removing the very fuel that you need to have to train hard, to adapt, and to get better. So when your training is going well, keep that your focus. Or if you haven't been training well, make that your first focus, right? Get your sessions nice and fueled. Don't worry too much about trying to cut weight. Save the diet phase for a little bit later. Once training is stable, once you've built that good momentum and you've got that habit of getting into the gym, getting your conditioning done, and then we can then focus on a period of time. The shorter, ideally, the better, because then we can continue to fuel our training sessions. And that's when you want to focus on fat loss. Or Actually, most people who start a solid S&C program will end up getting leaner anyway, particularly if they start it overweight to begin with. Just from training consistently and cutting out some of the junk, they end up slowly losing the weight and getting to a decent body composition. There's probably not a need to rush it for most people, and if there is a need to rush it because you are really overweight, again, that might probably take care of itself. So train hard, recover well, make sure you're eating enough to fuel your sessions, and then tidy up the diet. Focus on really getting lean when that time is right for you. All right, so moving on to number 5 of ways that rugby players mess up their strength and conditioning. It is just overthinking conditioning. Right? A lot of people misunderstand what conditioning is when it comes to rugby. A lot of people overcomplicate it. Players think that they need to perfectly replicate a game or that every session has to destroy them. But conditioning isn't about craziness or chaos or even really like absolute precision. It's about adaptation. You're not trying to copy rugby specific work to rest ratios in order to get better. You're trying to build a cardiovascular system that recovers faster, lasts longer, and supports your performance on the pitch and to an extent in the gym as well. And this is just going to take time and consistency, not like the absolute best program or best thing that you can do for a couple of weeks. You're just not going to be able to make those adaptations in such a short time frame. So with that in mind, just understand that you don't and you shouldn't be crushing yourself to improve, because you've got to be doing this for a long time to really get fit. A few smart, well-placed sessions throughout your week, zone 2 runs, tempo sprints, some level of sprint intervals, threshold work, all of these things can work really well. But the important part is that they add on top of each other as you go through and that you build fitness over a long period of time. So the next way players mess up is that they overthink exercises. And this is, again, a lot of these are definitely down to social media, right? You scroll for 5 minutes and suddenly you think your program's wrong because you haven't included this specific exercise. Everyone online is doing the new rugby specific thing or athlete specific thing, or they're moving through a certain range of motion or in a certain way that you need to add because it's missing in your training, right? But really, exercises are just tools. They're there to build general physical qualities to help you perform on the pitch. You need to pick them based on your build, your body type, your equipment, your goals, what suits you the best. And understand that what suits you the best right now might not be the best for the future. Understand that there will always be trade-offs, and that is okay. That's normal. That is what we just have to accept. Right? We're not trying to look for the perfect exercise because it doesn't exist. In fact, like the sort of S tier to D tier to F tier ranking of exercises, let me know if you want me to do a video on that, by the way, because they seem to get loads of traction. They're like, you got to take these things with a grain of salt because every exercise is for a certain purpose, and that purpose is always still going to have trade-offs. In fact, exercise selection should be seen as like a menu, right? Not a buffet. You're not trying to put everything on your plate. You're trying to pick what fits you and your situation as best as possible for what you want to achieve. And then you want to hammer away at those exercises to improve, to make the adaptations, to get better, and then to be able to see the results on the pitch. Remember, social media particularly is always going to reward variety. So a lot of these people that are showing you all these different exercises, they might not even be doing them within their program. They're just doing them because they need to make their 14th post this month. They're not doing it because that's the best way to get results. Most of what you see online is for views, or even maybe just because they've gotten bored. It's not necessarily because this exercise is better than this. Keep your focus instead on progression, on picking the exercises that work for you and then progressing them over time. Not constantly looking for what you're missing, because you're always going to be missing something, but it's the consistency that gets you the results, not one specific exercise that you're missing from your routine. The next way I see rugby players messing up their progress is by thinking that every single week has to be perfect. This mindset absolutely can kill your momentum over and over and over again. You hit one week really hard, you have a perfect week, everything falls into place, you feel really good, and the next week life happens. Maybe you miss a session, maybe you miss 2 sessions, maybe lots of things go like completely out of your way and you're not performing as well as you hope to do in the gym. And suddenly you're sat there thinking that you've completely ruined it. But in reality, you haven't, right? No one week of perfection or rubbishness for lack of a better word, is going to make or break your progress. It's about stacking up those weeks, week on week on week. View every week as an opportunity just to push that needle a little bit further forward. If it's a perfect week, it's still not going to get you fast tracked all the way to your goals. If it's a crap week, you haven't missed on fast tracking yourself all the way to your goals. Progress is made over long periods of time, not through perfection. Speaking of which, the next point is that same mindset, but rather than looking at a week, you're looking now at the sessions. A lot of rugby players think that every session has to be perfect, otherwise it's a loss, right? Same idea, smaller scale. Not every workout is going to feel great. You'll have days where the bar feels really heavy. Maybe there's some soreness, as we've mentioned earlier, or maybe you're really rushed for time and you're not going to be able to get through it all. That's fine. Again, for a lot of you, that might be normal. A bad session, quote unquote, still is going to give you some level of training stimulus. That is a win. That is another opportunity to put more pennies in the bank to move that needle a little bit further forward. You still showed up. You still got work done. And as long as you're never completing a full session because of time limitations, then maybe, yeah, you do need to have a look at your session. Don't stress too much. Don't beat yourself up for not having a perfect session. Just take the wins when they do come, and then the other sessions are just about ticking the box, getting the stimulus, and moving on to the next one. In fact, I had this very conversation with one of the guys that I work with one-on-one just last week. He actually had a period of beating himself up over having some poor sessions over the past few weeks. And I said, what does a poor session even mean? And he was like, I didn't hit the numbers that I really wanted to hit. Doesn't mean you're still not getting a stimulus. Doesn't mean that you're not still making improvements, because again, you zoom out, one of those sessions, two of those sessions within the month are amazing sessions where you've hit new PBs. And the better you get, the stronger you get, the more adaptations that you make, and the further and more advanced you become, then the PBs are going to come less and less often. But that doesn't mean that all of the other sessions that aren't PBs aren't still wins, where you're creating quality stimulus and adaptations. Okay, so the penultimate way I see rugby players mess up their S&C is by getting distracted by other goals that really don't suit them, particularly right now. See this all the time. It's basically FOMO, but with your training. You're training really well, and then you see someone doing whatever the latest trend is, or something on a Discover page. Maybe they're doing a powerlifting meet. Maybe you see them doing the clean and jerk really well, and you think, okay, I want to add that into my training. I want to do some of those things. Happens all the bloody time. Or you see someone posting about the optimal hypertrophy split, and you think, oh yeah, maybe that split is going to suit me even better. That's how progress dies, right? It's not just the big distractions either, like completely overhauling your program. It can also be small ones, right? Like mobility drills, tests, the new must-do exercises to hit whatever given muscle, or to hit whatever thing that you need to add into your program. I see this all the time. Players chasing goals just because they think it looks cool and they think it might be a cool idea to sort of go and chase. But really, it has nothing to do with them and their goal right now. And then you realize, actually, training to do the splits is going to take me like a year or more of really difficult mobility training. All of a sudden, it's not that cool. It's another thing I've got to add to my list of training things that I've got to do with my not very massive amount of time. And so if these things don't really suit your training goals right now, park it. Come back to it later. Stop getting distracted. In fact, I've got a few clients again that I've worked with that they ended up deleting their Instagram because they continually see all these new cool exercises and like, maybe I should add this, maybe I should add this. And it distracts you from what is important, which is executing the program, executing your training to get to the goals that you've already established are important to you and your rugby right now. And it's really important that you just continue to hammer away at those until they stop being weaknesses or they become a real good strength and you've made the adaptations and you've gotten really far. If you just continually switch it up every time you see something that could be cool to train for and then get bored and then train for something else, that is a really, really, really easy way to guarantee that you just get no results whatsoever, and maybe you eventually just get disheartened with the whole training process. And then the final way that rugby players mess up their S&C is the classic, the simplest mistake of all: procrastinating to take action. Rugby players will say things like, I'll start to focus on my S&C when work calms down, or when I'm fitter, which kind of makes no sense, or when I've got more time on my hands. Again, this isn't going to happen. These perfect scenarios, this perfect Garden of Eden where you can actually finally focus on rugby training like a full-time athlete, is just not going to exist. There's always going to be something, right? So you just have to start. Even if it's just like one session a week, that is better than 0 sessions a week. Over 4 weeks, you've had 4 sessions. That is enough, as we've already discussed, to get some level of stimulus. More importantly, you're teaching yourself to take action. Then we can add in more sessions. You can do 2, you can do 3 a week. You can figure out times to add in little chunks, even if it's just 30 minutes. 30 minutes 3 times a week is a huge amount of time to make ridiculously good results. I'm telling you, I'm not just saying this because it's a gateway drug into training 6 times a week for 90 minutes. No, you could just do 30 minutes 3 times a week. Is it absolutely perfect? No, but it is infinitely better than doing 0. And what's more important is this action is going to create clarity. You're going to get some momentum. That's going to build up your motivation, your enjoyment, and it's going to become a habit over time. And then once you get that consistency in, that's what's going to get you the results. So stop planning, stop trying to wait for this time to be perfect, start doing. Okay, cool. That's it for today. Again, be sure to let me know which of these hit home most for you. Let me know in the comments below on YouTube. Hit the 3 dots on Spotify and let me know in the comments there. Make sure you are subscribed. If this episode did hit home and you're ready to just get into it and actually apply it, stop guessing, stop overcomplicating your training, finally train like a real rugby athlete and train in a way that fits around your work, school, family, whatever. That's exactly what we do within Team Rugby Muscle. I'll put the links to join in the description below. You'll get structured, time efficient training that suits your schedule, your goals, depending on where you are in season, all of that sort of stuff, and you'll get personal recommendations from me as to which program and how to get going with your action. Look forward to seeing you in there. And because you're listening to the podcast, you can use the code podcast10 to get 10% off your first payment. That's whether you're paying on a subscription or you pay for the annual. The link will be down below. Join the team, start moving in the right direction. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a mate, tag me, post it to your stories, do all of those good things. Sharing it with the teammate is the easiest way for this show to keep growing. And if I see these videos and these shows get lots of downloads, lots of listens, I'll be sure to really prioritize. I know I haven't been as good at getting an episode out every single week. It's just something I haven't been prioritizing because, I don't know, just because I've been focused on all of the athletes that I've been working with. But it is something I do enjoy doing. And if you do appreciate it, please do hit that thumbs up button, share it with a teammate, make sure you're subscribed, train smart, stay consistent, and I'll catch you in the next one.